Welcome to the Mobile-Tensaw Delta, often called America's Amazon. A sprawling 260,000-acre labyrinth of rivers, bayous, marshes, and swamps that harbors one of the richest tapestries of life in North America. This ecological powerhouse is home to over 126 species of fish, from prehistoric paddlefish and armored sturgeon to feisty bass and shimmering shellcracker. But the Delta story doesn't stop at scales and fins. It's a living mosaic of amphibians, shellfish, reptiles, birds, and rare plants, all thriving in the dynamic mix of freshwater and brackish tides. In this compilation, we'll dive deep into the most popular species that call this place home, exploring how each one fits into the rhythm of the Delta's waters, and why this hidden world matters more now than ever. I'm your host, Stu Donald. Let's head to the Delta. In the tangled bayous and tea-colored rivers of the Mobile-Tensaw Delta, a cast of whiskered legends prowls the depths. These waters are home to some of the South's most iconic freshwater fish, and few evoke more reverence than the catfish. Let's start today's adventure off with the blue catfish. Stout and powerful, cruises the deeper channels with a telltale bluish-gray shimmer and is basically the heavyweight champ of southern rivers. Big, bold, and built like a whiskered torpedo. Native to the mighty Mississippi, Missouri, Ohio, and Rio Grande basins, this aquatic bruiser can grow over 5 feet long and tip the scales at more than 140 pounds at tops. Its look? Think slate blue back, silvery sides, and a belly so wide it can moonlight as a marshmallow. With a tail fin forked like a tuning fork and 8 whiskers, like barbells that double as underwater flavor sensors. It's the kind of fish that doesn't just swim, it prowls. Blue cats are all about the big water, deep pools, fast-moving rivers, and reservoirs with sandy or rocky bottoms. They're not picky eaters either. If it moves, or even if it doesn't, it's probably on the menu. Shad, frogs, crustaceans, bugs, mollusks, and the occasional unlucky fish that wandered too close, including catfish. They are nocturnal snackers, using their barbells to sniff out dinner in the dark like underwater bloodhounds. And if there's a school of bass nearby, you better believe the blue cat is lurking behind them like a shady character in a fishy alleyway, waiting for scraps. Anglers love them for their fight, their size, and their sheer attitude. But in places like the Chesapeake Bay, they've earned a bit of a villain reputation. Kind of like the outlaw who rolled into town and started eating everybody. They are close cousins to the channel catfish, but with more fin rays and a bigger appetite. In short, the blue catfish is the Mobile-Tensaw Delta's whiskered heavyweight, equal parts majestic, mischievous, and mouthy. Now, as I already mentioned, the channel catfish is the quirky cousin in the catfish family. Less brooding heavyweight, more scrappy optimist with a flair for flavor. Often called the swimming tongue, this fish has taste buds not just in its mouth, but all over its body, especially concentrated on its whisker-like barbells. That means it doesn't just taste its food, it tastes the water, the mud, and even other fish. It's like a sensory sponge with fins. Channel cats are sleek and slightly flattened, with a forked tail and smooth, scaleless skin that ranges from olive gray to bluish silver, depending on mood, water clarity, and whether or not it's trying to impress a girl. Juveniles often sport dark spots, which fade as they grow older and more mysterious. They typically reach about 20 inches and 5 pounds, but some have been known to hit 40 pounds and 52 inches, basically the size of a toddler with attitude. These fish are everywhere: lakes, rivers, ponds, reservoirs, even brackish water if they're feeling adventurous. They're cavity nesters, meaning they lay eggs in cozy crevices or under logs, and the male guards them like a grumpy bouncer at a nightclub. Their diet is a buffet of snails, frogs, insects, algae, seeds, and small fish. Basically anything that fits in their mouth or doesn't swim away fast enough. They're nocturnal, solitary, and not exactly territorial, but they do have a social hierarchy that's communicated through pheromones and body odor. That's right, they literally smell each other to figure out who's in charge. Channel catfish are the most fished catfish species in North America. beloved by anglers and aquaculture alike. They're the state fish of Kansas and Missouri and Nebraska and Tennessee, and they've been introduced to waters around the world, sometimes legally, sometimes not so much. With nicknames like Chucklehead, Fiddler, and Ladycat, the channel catfish is equal parts graceful, goofy, and gourmet. Whether you're fishing for dinner or just admiring its sensory superpowers, this whiskered wonder is a true southern original. Channel catfish are the species of choice for catfish farmers all over the southeast, so chances are if you've ever been to a catfish house, you've eaten channel cat. Now my personal favorite, not just to catch, but especially to eat. The flathead catfish is the grumpy old outlaw of the river world. Big, solitary, and unapologetically carnivorous. With a head shaped like a shovel and a jaw that juts out like it's perpetually annoyed, this fish doesn't just prowl, it dominates. Growing up to 61 inches long and tipping the scales at over 120 pounds, flatheads are the second largest catfish in North America, right behind their cousin, the blue cat. Their mottled olive brown bodies and pale yellow bellies give them a camouflage that screams, "I'm here, but you ain't gonna see me."
And you'll never see me coming.
Unlike their scavenger cousins, flatheads are picky eaters with a taste for live prey. As juveniles, they snack on insects and crawfish, and once they hit about 10 inches, they go full predator mode, devouring sunfish, shad, carp, bass, and even other catfish. They're basically the river's version of a mob boss. Territorial, nocturnal, and not afraid to eat their own kind. Their feeding style is pure ambush. They'll lie motionless on the riverbed, mouth agape, waiting for something unlucky to swim too close. And bam! It's lights out. Flatheads prefer deep, slow-moving rivers and reservoirs with plenty of submerged logs and overhanging banks to hide under. Their homebodies, rarely staying more than a mile from their favorite log or rock pile. When it's spawning season, late spring to early summer, the male flathead becomes a devoted dad, digging a nest, fanning the eggs with his fins, and chasing off anything that dares come near. And when he's not parenting, he's probably sulking under a tree root, waiting for nightfall to go hunting. With nicknames like Mudcat, Shovelhead, Yellowcat, Tabbycat, and Granny Cat, yeah, that's real. The flathead catfish is a southern legend with a face only a mother could love and an appetite that could clear a pond. Whether you're fishing for glory or just trying not to become dinner, one thing's for sure, when a flathead bites, you'll know it. The white catfish are also called a white bullhead. It is a compact fork-tailed species native to the eastern U.S. It thrives in both freshwater and brackish environments, making it one of the most salt-tolerant North American catfish. Bullhead catfish, which include species like yellow, brown, and black bullhead, are tough, bottom-dwelling survivors found in slow-moving waters across the continent. They're known for their squared tails, nocturnal habits, and ability to tolerate low oxygen and murky conditions. Another fish that swims in this delta is the spoonbill catfish, which is nothing of the sort. Also known as paddlefish or American paddlefish, it is often mistaken for a catfish, but it is in truth something far more ancient. This odd-looking fish sports a long, paddle-shaped snout brimming with electroreceptors. It is tasty to eat, but prized for its caviar, which sells for more than $30 an ounce. And that is why the species is stressed in most southern states. It doesn't chase minnows, it senses microscopic plankton and filters them with quiet grace. With no scales and no whiskers, it's not a catfish at all. It's a relic of the deep past, sharing lineage with sturgeon. I want to bring up two imposters to the catfish world. There was a time when purchasing catfish was a crapshoot. Two species of fish were once being passed off as catfish in the U.S. Those two species are basa and shwai, which most Americans pronounce as shui. But they answer to many names: Vietnamese catfish, sansuchi, suchi, pangasius, tra, becky, river cobbler. Every time customers find out what they are actually eating, the purveyors just change the name. Both fish are farmed on the Mekong Delta in Vietnam, which is formed by the confluence of three of the world's 5 most polluted rivers, and they come together to create the world's most polluted body of water. These farms are unregulated, and the fish they produce are teeming with toxins and carcinogens. It is now illegal to serve them in the U.S. as catfish, but for some reason, still legal to sell them despite the many dangers they afford. The Mobile-Tensaw Delta, and heck, the entire state of Alabama, is prime catfish country, and those who revel in Mr. Whiskers don't hesitate to voyage down to our waters. Take a look at some of our state records. Most of them come in within 80% of the weight of the world record for that species. Now down south, catfish ain't just a meal. It's a tradition. You'll find it fried golden and crisp, served with hush puppies and a side of coleslaw at Friday night fish fries or over cheese grits for breakfast. Blackened catfish kicks it up with Cajun spice, sizzling in a cast iron skillet. Smoked catfish, ooh, honey, it's melt in your mouth magic straight out of the bayou. There's catfish stew swimming in tomatoes and okra. However you serve it, crunchy, spicy, smoky, or saucy, catfish always comes with a good story. The Mobile-Tensaw Delta cradles both the familiar and the forgotten. Catfish embody strength, resilience, and southern tradition. Paddlefish, with its smooth skin and mysterious snout, reminds us that ancient wonders still drift beneath the surface. In a world rushing forward, these fish are a quiet anchor, holding stories older than the land itself. Whether hooked for dinner or admired in silence, their legacy flows with the currents of the Delta.
Excuse me, old chap, but would you mind terribly clicking like and subscribe? It would mean oh so much to me, seeing how as I gave my life for your entertainment.
The names of fish can be awfully confusing, especially when you venture region to region. And today I take a look at one of the most confusing ones. Sunfish, panfish, are they the same thing or are they not the same thing? Well, we've got a lot of information to sort through, so let's get this ball rolling. Sunfish versus panfish. What's the difference? Well, this is a great question and one that is sure to cause a ruckus at bait shops and fish fries. See, sunfish and panfish are related, but they're not interchangeable terms. The first thing we need to do is clarify whether we are speaking about saltwater or freshwater sunfish. That is an easy distinction to make, as ocean sunfish is a particular species, while sunfish in freshwater aquatic systems is a classification or family. I'll hit on the ocean sunfish just a bit before addressing the real meat of the topic. I love the ocean sunfish because it's just wrong. Everything about this fish is wrong. It's also known as the mola mola, and it is the heavyweight champion of the bony fish world and can tip the scales at a staggering 5,000 pounds. With their oddly rounded, flattened bodies that look like someone stopped sculpting halfway through, they drift through warm water and temperate oceans across the globe with a mouth that never closes. Instead of a traditional tail, they sport a strange rubber-like appendage, along with towering dorsal and anal fins that help them navigate awkwardly but effectively, like a giant aquatic saucer on patrol. The ocean sunfish is proof that Mother Nature has a sick and twisted sense of humor. Now on to freshwater. Sunfish refers to a family of freshwater fish called Centrarchidae. This includes, but is not limited to, species like bluegill, pumpkin seed, red ear sunfish, long ear sunfish, green sunfish, warmouth, even black bass, y'all. Species like largemouth, spotted bass, red-eye, and smallmouth bass are black bass, a family classified within the broader sunfish family. Now, panfish is a non-scientific term used to describe any small freshwater fish that's commonly caught for eating, especially those small enough to fit in a frying pan. It's more of a culinary or angler's term than a biological one. I have also had it described to me as fish that are kind of sort of shaped somewhat like a frying pan type thing. So are they the same? We can definitively say no and yes. All sunfish are panfish. If they're small enough and commonly eaten, they're panfish. But not all panfish are sunfish, because the panfish category can also include yellow perch, rock bass, flyer. I didn't even know what that was until I started putting this video together. It even includes small trout or catfish in some regions. Then there is the confusing case of crappie. Technically a sunfish, but also usually sequestered into its own family. Think of panfish as a catch-all term for the tasty little guys you'd fry up and serve over grits. If you're fishing around the Gulf Coast, or especially in the Mobile-Tensaw Delta, you've probably reeled in a few of these, and for good reason. The Mobile-Tensaw Delta is a sunfish paradise, like a freshwater Mardi Gras on the Centrarchidae family. Now, based on ecological surveys and regional fish data, here's a list of the sunfish species known to inhabit this richly biodiverse delta. Bluegill, of course, the poster child of brim fishing. Red-eared sunfish, now around here they're called shellcracker. They're famous for crunching snails and mussels and all kinds of shellfish, thus the name. Green sunfish are not nearly as common, but they're feisty and flashy and often found near banks and vegetation. One of my favorites, the pumpkin seed. Less common, but occasionally spotted in cooler tributaries. A beautiful fish that looks more at home in an aquarium. Along with that is the long-eared sunfish, named for its elongated opercular flap, or real looker. A warmouth, big mouth, bold attitude, often mistaken for a bass. Another aquarium darling, red-spotted sunfish, a Mobile Delta specialty, especially near duck blinds. Spotted sunfish prefers slow-moving waters and shaded areas. And another gorgeous one, the orange spotted sunfish, small but vibrant and often found in backwaters. Now, the bassy cousins are the largemouth bass, the spotted bass, and on rare occasions, the red-eye bass, or as it's more commonly known, the Coosa bass. The Coosa is one of the main tributaries that funnels down into the Mobile-Tensaw Delta. Although where the delta starts, it's rare that you would find a Coosa bass, but not impossible. These species thrive in the delta's mix of swamps, bayous, and tidally influenced rivers. The red-spotted sunfish in particular is a local gem. Some say the delta is the best place in Alabama to catch it. Now, these fish are plentiful in Alabama, and here's a look at the state records for a few of the more popular species. Largemouth bass, 16 pounds, 8 ounces. The spotted bass, known also as an Alabama spot, is 8 pounds, 15 ounces. The good old bluegill, 4 pounds, 12 ounces. Crappie, both types. Black crappie, 4 pounds, 5 ounces. White crappie, 4 pounds, 9 ounces. And the beautiful red-eared sunfish, or the shellcracker, 4 pounds, 4 ounces. Compare that to angling bucket list darling, Lake Havasu. I think you'll find out that Alabama more than handles its share of the business. There we go. What do we got here? Oh, wow. Holy shnikes. There we go. That, folks, is a pumpkin seed. Aren't they beautiful? Gosh, I really want an aquarium so I can fill it with these and red-breasted sunfish. Just beautiful fish. All right, going back in there, baby. From the palm-sized bluegill to the pancake-shaped ocean sunfish, today's journey revealed a vibrant cast of aquatic characters. We explored the dazzling diversity of freshwater species that thrive in places like the Mobile-Tensaw Delta. Green sunfish, long-ear, warmouth, red-spotted, and more, each with unique colors, quirks, and nesting habitats. We learned how Alabama holds some epic fishing records, including the world's largest bluegill. Even if Lake Havasu did steal the spotlight on that record-breaking shellcracker. Whether you're reeling in bluegill with the kids or marveling at the brilliant colors of a pumpkin seed, one thing's clear. Sunfish aren't just fish. They're freshwater folklore, rainbow-scaled storytellers, and finned ambassadors of biodiversity. Oh, and one more thing. They are delicious. Bass fishing in America is more than a pastime. It's a cultural ritual woven into weekend mornings, roadside bait shops, and the pulse of lakefront towns. From quiet coves to televised tournaments, it spans the humble to the heroic, beckoning generations with the promise of strategy, serenity, and a splash-filled excitement. Its allure lies in the universal drama, the cast, the weight, the sudden tension, and the triumphant voyage from water to hand. When it comes to bass fishing, the Delta has a lot to offer, so let's take a gander. The largemouth bass is the heavyweight of the black bass family, prized for its aggressive strikes and adaptability. What old-timers once called green trout are found throughout Alabama's lakes and rivers, including the Delta. They thrive in warm, vegetated waters and can reach over 20 inches in length. Its signature feature is a jaw that extends past the eye, and it's known for ambushing prey like bluegill, frog, and even small snakes. It's the state freshwater fish of Alabama and a favorite among anglers for its aerial acrobatics when hooked. Largemouth bass move shallow in spring to spawn around 55 to 65 degrees, with males guarding nests and females retreating after laying eggs. In summer, they seek cooler, deeper areas and feed early or late. Fall brings a feeding frenzy as they chase bait fish into shallows, while winter slows their metabolism. They hold deep and respond to slow presentations. I personally have been catching largemouth bass off of this delta most of my life. In fact, my personal best of 7 pounds 9 ounces came from Lake Citronelle, which is on the northern part of the delta. It's fed by Cedar Creek, which drops directly into the Mobile River. Looking very similar to the largemouth, the Alabama spotted bass, often confused with its northern cousin, the Kentucky spot, is native to the Mobile River basin and known for its tenacity and streamlined build. Yet the Kentucky spotted bass and the Alabama spotted bass were cousins at a southern family reunion. The Kentucky spot would show up early, perfectly groomed, bragging about its streamlined proportions and official lineage. Bless its heart. In layman's terms, it exhibits a more streamlined body shape, moderate lateral spotting, and less pronounced cranial morphology. Meanwhile, the Alabama spot would roll in fashionably late, a little chunkier, throwing shade and sass like it owns the river, which technically it does. Like my grandpappy used to say, Alabama spots are genetically distinct and morphologically differentiated, typically showing a deeper body and more aggressive blotching along the lateral line. One's got pedigree, the other's got personality. And if you ask them to share a fishing hole, expect passive-aggressive fin flicks, arguments about who has the biggest set of gills, and a full-on splash war. Unlike largemouths, its jaw does not extend past the eye, and it sports a tooth patch on the tongue. It prefers rocky flowing waters and can reach sizes over 8 pounds in reservoirs. Its aggressive nature and deep water habits make it a challenge to catch, especially when targeting brush piles or submerged structure. Alabama spotted bass spawn earlier than largemouths along rocky banks and creek mouths in the springtime. Summer finds them schooling in deep water, feeding on shad mostly. In fall, they follow bait fish towards the surface and become more aggressive. During winter, they stay near deep ledges or structure and feed with slower finesse tactics. The similarities between largemouth bass and the Alabama spot are such that until a few decades ago, a lot of times we couldn't tell which one we were catching. Because of that, I have no idea what my personal best Kentucky spot is. I'm willing to bet it's nowhere near the 7 pound 9 ounces of that largemouth though. The last black bass that you can find in the Delta is the Coosa bass, which is a member of the red-eye bass group. It's endemic to upland streams in the Coosa River system, which is one of the major tributaries to the Mobile-Tensaw Delta. Now, I've never caught one of these boogers myself because they live way further north than I'm used to fishing. But you can find them in the extreme north parts of the Delta. Now, they are smaller and more elusive than their cousins and rarely exceed 17 inches, but they dazzle with olive mottling and red eyes and white-edged tail fins. They thrive in cool, rocky creeks and are favored among fly anglers for their scrappy fight and vibrant coloration. Unlike lake-dwelling bass, Coosa bass are more sensitive to habitat disruption and are considered a conservation priority in parts of Alabama and also Georgia. The Coosa bass, which is, as I said, native to the upland streams, spawn in rocky riffles when spring water warms up to around 60 degrees, give or take. In summer, they retreat to deeper pools or shaded runs and become less active during the midday. Fall sparks feeding along current streams and eddies, and winter slows them down again. They tuck into deeper, slower water and require a delicate touch. Now, as I said, I've never had the pleasure to catch a Coosa bass, but it is on the top of the list of fish that I want to catch one day, right alongside the smallmouth, which is another bass that does not live this far south. Now that we have left the black bass family, that brings us to the striped bass, the natural striped and the hybrid striped. The striped bass is a migratory powerhouse originally native to the Atlantic coast, but now stocked in many Alabama reservoirs. It's easily recognized by its bold horizontal stripes and forked tail, and it can grow to over 50 pounds. Striped bass prefer open water and cooler temperatures, often schooling near deep channels and dam tailwaters. Now, these striped bass head upriver to spawn when spring temps hit 55 to 65 degrees, feeding mostly on shad. As summer heats up, they seek deep, oxygen-rich refuge, with feeding best at dawn, dusk, or night. Fall sees a return to aggressive shallow feeding, and winter drives them deep where they feed less but can be caught with patient jigging or trolling. The wintertime in the Delta is one of the prime times to go for striped bass because of how mild the winters are on the Gulf Coast. Now, their hybrid offspring, the hybrid striped bass, commonly called wipers, I don't know why, are a cross between striped and white bass. White bass do not live in the Delta. This fish combines the strength of stripers with the adaptability of white bass, making them ideal for stocking in southern lakes. Hybrids are aggressive feeders, often chasing shad to the surface in dramatic feeding frenzies, and are known for their hard runs and strong fights. Hybrid striped bass mimic striped bass with aggressive spring feeding and spawn-like runs. They school in open water near bait fish during summer, with activity peaking around thermoclines. In fall, they chase shad into shallows and strike topwater aggressively. Winter finds them suspended deep near bay, where slow tactics often pay off. The Mobile-Tensaw Delta is a labyrinth of freshwater riches, where bass diversity thrives like few other places in the Deep South. From the fierce largemouth lurking in cypress-shadowed sloughs to the elusive Alabama spotted bass weaving through river currents, each species plays its part in a living tapestry of aquatic drama. These waters whisper tales of old, of monster catches and quiet mornings steeped in fog, and today they beckon to new explorers. Whether you're casting from the bank or gliding through winding creeks, bass fishing in the Delta offers not just sport, but an immersion into one of America's most vibrant and storied ecosystems. Welcome, folks, to the brackish backstage of Alabama's most eclectic aquatic playground, the Mobile-Tensaw Delta, where mullet leap like popcorn, gators loiter like porch dogs, and the salt sneaks in like a nosy neighbor bringing deviled eggs and homemade scuppernong wine. Today, we're diving fin first into the salty side of this freshwater wonderland, where tides mix tea with Tabasco, and a few unsuspecting saltwater guests crash the swamp party. Did you ever hear a fish whisper through brackish water? That's the white trout, ghost of the Delta, silver flash in a muddy tide. Not a true trout, mind you, but a cousin of the sand sea trout, riding the salt fresh seam where the Mobile-Tensaw kisses the bay. Sleek, pale, and fast, they school in numbers that shimmer like spilled moonlight. You'll find them in the lower Delta, where the tides pulse and the mullet leap. They're not trophy fish, no bragging rights here, but they're honest. They bite quick, fight clean, and fry up golden. Ask any old-timer down on Chattahoochee Bay and they'll tell you, white trout are the heartbeat of a good summer evening. Cast out, reel in, repeat. It's not just fishing, it's rhythm, it's memory. They'll also tell you gotta eat them quickly. The flesh is so delicate that after 24 hours, you don't want to eat them. But fry them up fresh and you've got some mighty fine victuals served over hominy grits. Now picture this. It's late summer, the Delta's waters shimmer under a fried oyster sun, and Mobile Bay's salt water is creeping up like gossip at a fish fry. That's when things get interesting. You start casting near the battleship, maybe thinking you'll score a bass or two. But what's this? Your line tugs harder than your Aunt Patty's braid in church, and up comes a speckled trout wearing its best freckled tuxedo. Speckled trout, officially spotted trout, unofficially the prom kings of brackish water. They dance around bait fish like it's homecoming night. You'll find them schooling near drop-offs and oyster beds, hitting soft plastics like they owe you money. The Alabama state record for speckled trout is 12 pounds 4 ounces. The IGFA all-tackle record spec was caught in Florida in '95. It weighed 17 pounds and 7 ounces. The IGFA all-tackle length world record was also caught in Florida, this time in 2015, and it measured 87 centimeters, or 34.25 inches American, which surpassed the old record by 3 inches. Current Alabama recreational harvest regulations call for a slot of 15 to 22 inches, with 1 over allowed, and a total of 6 fish per person per day. And then there's the redfish, bruisers in bronze armor, shoulder charging the marsh like linebackers. You could catch one near the causeway, and it pulls so hard, your boat starts questioning its life choices. The Alabama state record redfish, or red drum as it's sometimes called, is 45 pounds, 9 ounces, and it was caught in 2013 in an industrial canal right off Mobile Bay. The world record redfish was 94 pounds, 2 ounces, caught up in North Carolina back in '84. In Alabama, the current redfish regulations are a daily bag limit of 3 fish per person with a size limit of 16 to 26 inches total length. Unlike in previous years, this year is new, that any redfish caught over 26 inches must be released, and no bull reds over this size can be kept. For the longest time, redfish was thought to be too fishy tasting for the average diner. But in the early 1980s, Chef Paul Prudhomme from New Orleans came up with a method, or I should say one of his sous chefs came up with a method of coating the redfish fillets in a whole lot of dried spices and then cooking it in clarified butter over super high heat. Now we now know this dish is blackened redfish. This dish became so popular that we almost fished redfish into extinction. Because of that, there's no longer any federal commercial fishing allowed of redfish in the Gulf. And the only state that allows it is Louisiana, but it is under very strict conditions. Let's not forget the flounder, nature's living doormat. This pancake-shaped ninja hugs the bottom so close, it's basically part of the decor. You bounce a jig along the muddy flats and bam! You've hooked a fish with a permanent confused expression. There are 2 types of flounder on the Gulf Coast. The Gulf flounder, which favors clear, saltier waters typically found along sandy bottoms near the Gulf shoreline, and it is rarely found in Mobile Bay or much less the Delta. The other is found throughout the lower delta, and that's the southern flounder. In Alabama, the minimum legal size on the southern flounder is 14 inches and up, and it is important to note that flounder fishing is closed for the month of November. You are allowed to keep 5 flounder per person. The Alabama state record for southern flounder is 13 pounds 3 ounces, and it was caught in 1975, while the Gulf flounder record is 5 pounds 1 ounces. The world record for southern flounder is 20 pounds 9 ounces. And then there's sheep's head, striped like convict zebras and armed with teeth straight out of a dental horror show. They nibble barnacles off pilings and your bait with the delicate cunning of a grandmother judging potluck casseroles. The Alabama recreational bag limit for sheep's head is 8 fish per person per day. There is also a minimum size limit of 12 inches. The current Alabama state record for sheep's head was caught in March of 2022, weighing 16 pounds 6 ounces. The IGFA world record sheep's head is 21 pounds 4 ounces, and it was caught over in New Orleans in 1982. It is not unheard of to be anchored out on a brim bed in the Delta and have one of these mean-mouthed fish come through and test the limits of your cane pole. black drum, the gothic cousins of redfish, lurk in deeper waters, thumping like distant bass lines in a late-night jazz bar. They hit hard, grow big, and grunt louder than a granddad rising off the recliner. Black drum have the nickname Big Uglies, and it is well earned. What they lack in beauty, though, they make up for in fun. They are strong fighters. The smaller fish are the ones you want to eat. Called puppy drum, weighing under 20 pounds, they rarely have any of the parasites they tend to pick up as they get older. My personal best for any species is a 36-pound black drum that I caught off Cedar Point Pier in Coden, Alabama. The Alabama state record for black drum is 61 pounds, while the all-tackle world record is 113 pounds caught in Delaware. Black drum are extremely plentiful, therefore in Alabama, there is no size or bag limit for them. But now, we approach the slimy crescendo. Cue the gaff topsail catfish. Sail-like dorsal fin flapping like it's in a Renaissance regatta. Catch one and it slimes your boat, your hands, your dignity. But it fights like it means it, tugging your line like a toddler in a candy aisle. Right behind them comes the hardhead catfish, smaller, sneakier, with the survival instincts of a raccoon at a buffet. It'll hit shrimp, cut bait, or that leftover french fry you tossed overboard for good luck. Now let's talk danger. Both species sport venomous spines sharper than your ex's Facebook comments. Handle with care, gloves, pliers, maybe a prayer. While most anglers toss them back with a gentle, "not today," some brave souls fry them up with enough seasoning to make them socially acceptable. These slippery saltwater stowaways roam the lower delta like they own the place. You'll spot them near the causeway, lurking in brackish creeks and tidal flows, and plotting against bait fish and clean boat decks. And when the summer heat cranks up, they go wild, spinning in circles like aquatic gremlins at a salty discotheque. If the Mobile-Tensaw Delta had a circus, the mullet would be its headliner, leaping skyward in synchronized arcs like fish-shaped popcorn kernels escaping the skillet. These silvery daredevils don't jump for bait, fame, or fortune. They jump because they can. Locals say it's part exercise, part existential crisis. But truth be told, mullet are filter-feeding vegetarians with a flair for drama. You'll spot them in schools near marsh edges, especially when the water's warm and salinity's just spicy enough. And if you're fishing for specks or reds, keep an eye out for jumping mullet. They're nature's neon sign that says, "The buffet's open." Now don't let their acrobatics fool you. Mullet are the backbone of the Delta's bait economy. Cast netters chase them like paparazzi. Predators treat them like the Delta's version of fast food. They're oily, they're nutritious, and they've got more street cred than a crawfish in Mardi Gras beads. Some folks fry them whole, bones and all, while others use them strictly as sacrificial offerings to the gods of redfish. Either way, when mullet are jumping, the Delta's alive, and your odds of a good catch just went up faster than a gaff top on a sugar rush. Croaker may not win any beauty contest, but they've got one thing going for them. They talk back. These little golden brown bottom dwellers croak like they're auditioning for a swamp opera. They are the strange relatives of redfish and black drum. They are the cousins nobody talks about. You'll find them lurking in sandy channels and muddy flats, especially near the mouths of rivers where saltwater tickles the toes of freshwater. Toss out a shrimp or cut bait and they'll hit it with the enthusiasm of a toddler discovering cake. They're not picky, they're plentiful, and they're the Delta's unofficial welcome committee for beginner anglers. And let's be honest, croaker are a gateway fish. You catch one and suddenly you're hooked on the whole brackish lifestyle. They're edible too, with sweet, flaky meat that's perfect for frying or sneaking into gumbo when no one's looking. More importantly, the other fish think they're tasty too, which makes them great cut bait. But their real charm lies in their attitude. They grunt when caught, croak when handled, and generally behave like the Delta's middle child, always desperate for attention. So next time you reel one in, give it a nod. It's not just a fish, it's a voice in the chorus of the swamp, singing back up for the specks, reds, and flounders that headline this show. These aren't the only saltwater specials you may hook into in the Delta, just the most common. Pretty much anything that swims in the Gulf may be found here from time to time. Heck, when I was a teenager, I saw a small blue marlin jump out of the water on the Tensaw River, and you can drop crab traps with some success miles north of the closest saltwater. Next time you're out there casting into the mysterious, mud-scented waters in the Mobile-Tensaw, remember you're not just fishing. You're mingling with history, biology, and the kind of characters that would have made Darwin giggle. And if you hook a gaff top that slimes your cooler, don't freak out. It's just trying to make it in this big, brackish world, same as the rest of us.
Did y'all know that every time one of y'all clicks like, I hide one of Stu's socks? It's just a fun little game he don't know we're playing.
The Mobile-Tensaw Delta, Alabama's lush labyrinth of bayous, backwaters, and braided rivers, has long been a pantry of nature. From musky swamp floors to sun-dappled shallows, indigenous peoples knew every leaf and root worth gathering. Let's journey through several wild edibles that nourished generations, each a living echo of Gulf Coast tradition. In the still waters and black mud of the Delta, the duck potato grows where the land barely breathes. Recognizable by its arrowhead-shaped leaves and snowy white blooms, this native aquatic plant offers starchy tubers tucked beneath the surface of the water. Indigenous tribes like the Cherokee would loosen these tubers with poles or even their feet, letting the precious bulb float up like treasure. Cooked by roasting or boiling, duck potatoes taste like a rustic blend of chestnuts and potatoes, earthy, rich, and surprisingly satisfying. More than food, the duck potato's presence shaped the ecology of wetlands. Its long roots stabilize the muck, its flowers attract bees and butterflies, and its seeds draw in birds and muskrats. You'll find it today in ponds and swamps from Alabama to the Dakotas, quietly bringing utility and elegance. For those who respect seasonal rhythms and harvest with care, it remains a living artifact of indigenous ingenuity. In the quiet coves and mirror-stilled oxbows, the American lotus unfurls its broad green pads and butter-colored blossoms. It's more than a beautiful aquatic spectacle. This plant fed and healed the people of the Delta. Its seeds, often nicknamed water popcorn, could be roasted for a crunchy snack or ground into flour. The tubers, long, knobby roots, were harvested much like duck potato and served boiled or roasted. Their flavor delicate and nut-like. This lotus is sacred in many native cultures, symbolizing renewal and purity. But it was also practical. Every part had a use. Even today, muskrats and humans alike dive through submerged tangles to retrieve its hidden bounty. If you've ever wandered near the Delta's stillest shallows and seen the lush pads growing together like lily rafts, you've glimpsed one of the South's oldest harvest traditions. The cattail, tough and often overlooked, is the Swiss Army knife of wetland plants. Indigenous groups harvested its young shoots for stir-fry or snacking, its rhizomes for flour, and even its pollen for nutritional baking. Found lining ditches and marshes like green spears, the cattail thrives where others wilt. Called Cossack asparagus in foraging circles, its tender shoots were peeled and eaten raw or cooked, offering a refreshing, slightly cucumber-like crunch. And the uses didn't stop at food. The fluffy seed heads served as insulation and pillow stuffing. The stalks were woven into mats and roofs, and the roots treated infections or inflammation. One plant: food, medicine, building material, and fiber source. Cattail gave all, and in the Delta's patchwork of sun and shadow, it still does. Sweet and humble, the chinkapin is the South's answer to the chestnut. Native to upland edges near the Delta, this tree produces small nuts that are edible raw or roasted, offering a buttery crunch with a slightly nutty tang. Southeastern tribes prize chinkapins for both their taste and reliability. They were among the last seasonal harvests before winter set in, filling bellies and baskets alike. Smaller than true chestnuts but easier to forage, chinkapins often hide beneath fallen leaves. Spotting them takes patience and perhaps a memory passed down from generations. In modern foraging, chinkapin nuts are often overlooked, but they remain a delicious connection to ancestral land use and seasonal awareness. Twisting through the underbrush like nature's barbed wires, greenbrier is as defiant as it is nourishing. Its tough leaves are almost impossible to remove, but inside its tangle are young shoots and leaves edible and nutritious. Indigenous people peeled and sautéed the tender stalks, like asparagus, while the roots provided thickening starch for cooking or medicinal jelly. It produces a berry that, though edible, just isn't worth the effort. Despite the spiny armor, it's one of the most versatile wild edibles in the South. A poke salad is a storied southern dish made from young leaves of the pokeweed plant. Though the plant itself is toxic when raw, its tender spring shoots can be rendered safe and delicious through a meticulous process of boiling, often twice or even 3 times. They are then typically sautéed in bacon grease or oil and served with eggs, onions, or cornbread. Historically considered a poverty food, poke salad embodies the southern knack for turning wild, overlooked ingredients into culinary magic. Gliding across marshy canals and dugouts, tribes once harvested wild rice with wooden knockers, letting the grains rain down like treasure into woven baskets. This native aquatic grass wasn't just food, it was ceremony. Wild rice offered complete nutrition, deep flavor, and cultural identity. High in protein and fiber, the nutty grains could be boiled, roasted, or ground into flour. Sadly, wild rice is rare on the Delta today, a reminder of ecological shifts and colonial disruption. But its legacy remains in stories, in the few hidden patches still rustling in the breezes, and in the rise of those who remember the taste of something sacred gathered with reverence from the water. In the heart of the Mobile-Tensaw Delta, the pawpaw tree, with its tropical leaves and maroon blossoms, produces North America's largest native fruit. Banana meets mango in every creamy bite. Locals know where to find them: shaded sloughs, oxbow bends, bottomland trails. They're a delicacy with a short shelf life, but that hasn't stopped foragers, chefs, and butterfly watchers from singing the pawpaw's praises. Because in the Delta, the riches aren't just beneath the surface, they're hanging in the trees, waiting to be tasted. Southern summers bring a sweet perfume to the edges of the forest. That's muscadine and scuppernong, grapes with thick skins and a wild heart. Indigenous tribes pluck these dusky orbs from wine, syrup, and fresh eating. Rich in antioxidants and bursting with tart sweet juice, both species are delicious and restorative. Often found tangling through fences and forest margins, they're a sign that warm weather and harvest season have arrived. Unlike their grocery store cousins, these don't need tending. They grow feral and free, happy in the humid winds of the Delta. Their legacy lives in local wines and homemade jellies. Located on the edge of the Delta, Alabama's oldest winery, Perdido Vineyard, specializes in wines, vinegars, and juice made from the area's native grapes. Huckleberries are wild-growing gems native to North America, especially abundant in the Pacific Northwest and Appalachian regions and along the Gulf Coast. Herbalists have long prized them for their potent antioxidant content, which help combat inflammation, support cardiovascular health, and bolster immunity. Traditionally, huckleberry teas and tinctures were used for soothing sore throat. They aided digestion and helped treat colds. Culinarily, these tart, vibrant berries are a chef's delight. Their intense flavor shines in pies, jams, syrups, and even craft beers. They're also a favorite in pancakes, puddings, and sauces, offering a wild, earthy twist that blueberries just simply can't match. Now their cousin, the farkleberry, is also known as sparkleberries or tree huckleberries, are also native to the southeastern United States, and though less commercially known, they carry a rich, folkloric, and medicinal legacy. Native American traditions use the bark and root extracts to treat diarrhea, sore throats, and even chronic eye conditions. The berries themselves, while mealy and tart when raw, become deeply flavorful when cooked. In southern kitchens, they're transformed into jellies, syrups, and the occasional wine. The farkleberry pie standing as a regional delicacy. Their sweet tart profile, reminiscent of cranberries with a hint of earthiness, make them ideal for blending with other fruits in preserves or baked goods. Also found in our natural berry garden are the aptly named American beauty berries, which are a striking native shrub known for their vivid clusters of magenta purple berries that ripen in late summer and linger into fall. Herbalists have long valued the plant for its multifaceted medicinal properties. The leaves are traditionally used by Native Americans as a natural mosquito repellent and brewed into teas to treat fevers, indigestion, and rheumatism. Culinary-wise, while the raw berries are mildly astringent, they transform beautifully when cooked, yielding delicate floral jellies, syrups, and even wines. Their subtle flavor pairs well with citrus and spice, making them a favorite for experimental preserves and seasonal foraging feasts. Mayhaws are small, tart red berries that grow on hawthorn trees native to the wetlands and river bottoms of the southern United States, especially in places like the Mobile-Tensaw Delta. Though they resemble tiny cranberries, their flavor is uniquely bold, puckery, and bright, with a hint of wildness that makes them perfect for jelly. For generations, Southerners have gathered mayhaws in early spring, often wading into swampy thickets to collect the fruit before it drops into the water. The jelly made from mayhaws is a prized delicacy, its ruby hue and tangy sweet taste evoking memories of family kitchens and seasonal rituals. Additionally, many varieties of blackberries and dewberries can be found along the banks of the Delta, as well as several edible mushrooms which are indigenous to the Gulf region, including oyster mushrooms, chanterelles, and chicken of the woods. Found throughout the region, the eastern red cedar is an evergreen conifer native to the eastern half of North America. Despite its name, it is actually a species of juniper, not a true cedar. Its berries can be brined to make capers. It is beyond obvious to say that the Delta is a source of all kinds of protein. Fish, both freshwater and saltwater, squirrels, rabbits, black bears, alligators, the usual suspects. But there's one more source of protein that is a bit underrated. Long before modern roads formed a perimeter around the Delta, its winding rivers were the lifeblood for indigenous communities, and within those waters, freshwater mussels flourished. Species like Philiptio, Lampsilius, and Quadrula clung to the salty beds of the Tombigbee and Mobile-Tensaw system, quietly filtering the currents. For the Choctaw, Creek, and other native peoples, mussels weren't just a seasonal meal, they were a symbol of renewal. Cooked over open flame or boiled in pits lined with river stones, they nourish both body and spirit. Their pearlescent shells, sometimes carved into tools or beads, became part of a culture steeped in reverence for the land. Alabama is more than just sweet tea, football, and hurricanes. It's a global stronghold for shellfish diversity, especially in its freshwater rivers. With nearly 180 species of mussels, from the triangular kidney shell to the elusive Alabama pearl shell, this state outpaces the rest of the U.S. and even most of the world. These ancient mollusks once thrived across the Tennessee River and Mobile-Tensaw Delta, anchoring ecosystems and cultures with quiet power. Some are found nowhere else on Earth, yet that richness is fragile. Half of these native species are at risk, casualties of pollution, development, and invasive competition. Worldwide, shellfish aquaculture is booming, but wild populations like Alabama's mussels face serious threats. Still, the legacy here is profound. To study these waters is to read the story of Earth's biodiversity, written in the shells of creatures that lived long before us and may vanish without our care. The Mobile-Tensaw Delta hosts a remarkable diversity of native edible species, shaped by its rich mosaic of wetlands, forests, and brackish estuaries. Among the flora, indigenous communities have long harvested wild rice, cattails, muscadine grapes, persimmons, and the starchy roots of arrowhead and greenbrier. The fauna is equally abundant. Fish like largemouth bass, bluegill, and flounder, shellfish such as freshwater mussels and even crawfish, and game including deer, turkey, and waterfowl. This ecological bounty not only sustained native peoples, but also shaped their culinary traditions, seasonal movements, and spiritual relationships with the land. And we can have that relationship too. All we have to do is head to the Delta.
Hey y'all, Stuart said if I could figure out how to click like and subscribe a bunch of times, he'd let me back up on the couch again. Would you mind tapping them for me one time?